Nowadays, it's no surprise that the Chi-Fi world has essentially taken over the IEM scene. From the super budget ranges of like $20 all the way up to like $1,000, Chi-Fi essentially reigns supreme. They provide you with the best bang for your buck, and even beyond the kilobuck regions, I would say Chi-Fi still has a sort of threat to anything that is in the super high luxury areas. That said, even though Chi-Fi essentially has a stranglehold over the IEM market, I can't really say the same for the headphone market. You see, other than Hi-Fi Man, there hasn't really been another Chinese brand that has shown that they can develop a capable headphone. Moondrop have tried with the Void, the Venus, and more recently, the Joker, which is by itself a joke. But even with all of those attempts, I wouldn't say that they have really succeeded. Until now, ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you what may be the newest revolution in the Chi-Fi headphone space, the Moondrop Para. Let's talk about it. Before I begin, I usually like to talk about disclaimers, the reasons why you shouldn't trust me, why I'm not objective, so on and so forth, but I don't want to crowd a video like this one. So instead, I usually encourage people to watch this video where I talk about it for literally 12 minutes, all the reasons why you shouldn't trust someone like me. But you know who you should trust? Our sponsors, headphones.com. Yes, this is an ad read. Headphones.com is the premier online audio retailer for those of you residing in the continental United States as well as Canada. Pick and choose from a wide range of enthusiast level products ranging from DACs, amps, IEMs, and of course, headphones. And to sweeten the deal, headphones.com also has an unprecedented 365-day return policy, so if you want to, you could also just use them to try out some headphones that you otherwise wouldn't be able to try. There is still a restocking fee, but it's so much better than having to sell your regrets at a loss, right? Go to headphones.com, tell them I sent you, and of course support the people who support me. When you first look at the Para, you might realize that this looks strikingly similar to one of Moondrop's previous releases, namely the Venus. This is the Venus. It is currently Moondrop's flagship headphone, at least until the release of the electrostatic headphone, but for now, this is the most expensive headphone in your lineup that you can actually buy. I personally thought that it was really good, and of course you can watch my video on the Venus right here. And for $600 US, it establishes itself within the niche of the $500 to $1,000 bracket that honestly not a lot of headphones really try to exist in. So the Venus wins almost by default by virtue of being in a no man's land that was also occupied by their rivals, which are Hi-Fi Man. But at the end of the day, the Venus is a $600 US headphone. And in the context of the headphone market, sure, it's not as expensive as it could have been, but we all know Chi-Fi as being the ones that push the boundaries on price to performance ratios. So the Venus, as good as I thought it was, as much as I thought that it could compete with the other headphones in the $500 to $1,000 brackets, doesn't really represent the philosophies of Chi-Fi, if you will. But here's the thing. If you know Moondrop, you would know of their history of trying to undercut not only the market, but themselves. One of Moondrop's defining IEMs was the Canas, or the Canas, or however you want to pronounce it, and it retailed at $180 US. Thereafter, they came out with the KXXS at $190, and then completely unexpectedly, they came up with the Starfield, which acoustically was almost identical to the KXXS, but it only cost $110 US. This was, of course, unprecedented in the IEM market, or honestly any market in general. Why would you undercut yourself? Because at the time, the KXSS was a very strong contender in the sub $200 market. So people kind of thought that they were crazy. Like 110, you're undercutting yourself? Well, that's fine. We win. We as the consumers win. We're not going to complain too much. And then they did it again. Then came the very popular Moondrop Aria, which was again acoustically similar to the Starfield, which again was acoustically similar to the KXXS. And you got all of that for $80 US. They've undercut themselves by 30 US bucks. Again, people were just completely losing their minds at this point. So yeah, it's no secret that Moondrop likes to play these kinds of games, and a lot of people were expecting the same for the headphones realm, but no one really expected it, or I didn't really expect it this soon. But I'm going to put it one step further, one little step further, and say that the Moondrop Para is not only just the Venus but cheaper. But to my ears, to my own preferences, I say it's better. The material is not as premium as a Venus. A Venus is really made out of pure metal, whereas this one I think is made out of a coating of some sort, something that emulates metal, but not exactly. I'm not quite sure what the details are. Timmy, if you can put it up on the screen. At the end of the day, it does feel quite premium, but you can tell that next to the Venus, it is a somewhat of a step down in terms of overall build quality and luxuriousness. But all of this can be forgiven because the Moondrop Para retails for a cool, I don't know what the price is because I got this sample very early. So Timmy, please put up the price, but I was told that this was Moondrop Blessing 2 price. So amazing, honestly. Wow, what the hell? So I've gushed on enough on all the exposition and all the history and all the whatnot. You guys are here for one very simple thing, and that is why? Why exactly is the Moondrop Para so good? First, let's talk about the Venus. The Venus, again, really good. I like it, very nice, exciting kind of signature, and sometimes can be a bit too bright. But again, it's an amazing first attempt at a planar headphone by a company more known for their IEMs. So while I can't fault them too much, it's not like I'm faulting them at all because the Venus is still a genuinely great headphone. The Para, on the other hand, is what I'll call dialing it more towards a balanced signature. The treble is dropped down, the mids are pushed up, and what you get is just a sense of more natural sound compared to the Venus, if that makes sense. In a way, if I were to liken it to an analogy, this would be the difference between, let's say, the HD800, which would be represented by the Venus, versus the HD600, which is now represented by the Para. By most accounts, you can call the Venus a superior headphone. It is more resolving, it sounds more detailed, it has slightly better staging, but I just prefer the Para. That's not to say that the Para is a perfect headphone. It's not. It's absolutely not. I would still pick the HD600 for an overall more tonally balanced signature, but the Para has way better bass response, and overall, as a package, still something that I would pick up and use on a daily basis. You have the thump and the bass extension of your typical planar headphone, so there's no surprises here. But on top of that is also a very well-tuned set from the mid-range and upwards. Based on my guesstimations on the retail price of the Para, I would say that these headphones play around the same bracket as the Hi-Fi Man Sundaras. Very legendary headphones by their own right. Comparing the two, I would say that there are some differences in terms of build quality, as you would expect out of Hi-Fi headphones. Which one is better built? I want to say that the Para is, but I've also heard complaints from users about the Venus, about the screws falling off. So while I said that the build quality was good in my Venus review, user reports might differ from, case-to-case basis. But there are some quality of life improvements on the Para that I do appreciate. For example, the Sundara doesn't allow you to do side-by-side swivels, which means that sometimes it gets a little bit uncomfortable. The Para has a 4-axis swivel that will say up and down as well as left to right, so on your head, it can get quite comfortable. That is to say, of course, if you can handle the weight of it all. Because while the Para is absolutely lighter than the Venus, which in itself is an absolute chunk, it's still fairly heavy in the grand scheme of things. But all of these are just honestly just quality of life stuff, comfort things that are even more subjective than things like audio, for example. In conclusion, I think the Para is a new and very threatening addition to the $300 space. It trades blows pretty evenly with something like the Hi-Fi Man Sundara, which has already cemented itself as a default recommendation in the space. So here's the thing, I don't know if we are seeing the start of a new revolution in the Hi-Fi headphone space, but here is what I do know. The Para is good, very good. Bang for a buck. Absolutely. Here are the ranks. Put it up. Timmy, I haven't really decided on the ranks yet, but here it is. For now, I would say that after years of being very jaded towards the Hi-Fi headphones market, the Para is a new ray of light that makes me feel a little bit more hope towards this new market. If this is the direction that the Hi-Fi headphone market is heading towards, then I'm all for it. Just don't fumble. But I've always told people not to take my words at face value. My opinions, your opinions, we all have different opinions. So why not form your own? We currently have a Moondrop Para available for demo for anyone to demo. Just ask for it. Come down 29B, Moss Street, level 3. Have a coffee, chill out, listen to audio, listen to the Para, and then form your own opinions. It's how the hobby works. And now it's time for me to shout out my big money boys. You're all of a name. You have subscribed to the $20 tier on my Patreon. And for those who have subscribed to the $30 tier, allow me to speak out your beautiful names: Dennis, McMadface, crinacle, Alicia Burrito, Andrew, Frit, Posse Chronic, Drazar, 404 User Not Found, Seraphim, and Chemotherapy. I thank you all. And on that bombshell, I will see you all next week. And don't die. Fuck off.